Hello, I'm Frank Boxberger. Welcome to Notes 7 Creative Engineering School. This is lesson number 3. You can find any of our lessons and other information posted on Notes7.com. Any questions, comments, suggestions, email us notes7school@gmail.com. This is really just information to help spark the creative ability in all of us, God-given creative ability. And so what we're trying to do in this is break us out of the mold of how we're taught the thing and think beyond that. So we always start with a riddle. We'll have one today. We never give the answer to the riddle. You have to answer that on notes7@gmail.com. We expect multiple answers, and that's for you to be creative. So the riddle is simply, I've drawn these 9 dots. So I'll get a blue pen out to help describe it better. And what you have to do is you take these 9 dots and you have to draw straight lines without ever moving your pencil or pen, and try to get through the dots as you go through each one with as few lines as you can. So for instance, if somebody did this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's 6 lines. We want you to do it with the fewest number of lines, straight lines, you can. So we always have certain assumptions in the puzzle or riddle. This might be either one. I'd say maybe this is more of a puzzle, but it's on a sheet of paper, not a board. And you have to draw straight lines, or at least what simulates straight lines, and the fewest number of lines. And when you get the fewest number, email us and tell us what that number is. Now, if you're one of the people that sat back and said, I already know that puzzle, I know the answer, and you're already writing it down, and you think you know the answer, then that's the exact person I want to talk to, because that's what we're trying to do, is break you out of your creative mold. Because I'll bet you your right answer is just what you've been told is the right answer, which is not correct. So that's one of the reasons I asked this particular puzzle, because the answer given on the books is nowhere close to the right answer. It's so far off. So that is the whole way we want you to look at a problem. Not what you think is the answer, not what you've been told is the answer, but be creative, think outside the box, literally, and come up with that answer. When you do, and you think you've got the very best answer, email us at notes7school@gmail, and we'll tell you if that's the least number of straight lines or if you can do better. But chances are the ones that said, I already know that, and I already know the answer, that's what we want to avoid on every puzzle, everything you come across in life, to step back and say, is that really the best answer, instead of taking the easy path. Okay, that's it for this puzzle today. Now, today we're going to actually talk about sound and light. And so again, to expand our minds, if I say, what is the speed of light? Most people know. And of course, we do everything in miles and British units. So 186,000 miles per second. Okay, miles. We know a mile is 5,280 per second. So a couple of classes ago, we decided that the Earth was, I don't know if you guys remember, I think it was 24,901, just going by memory, around. Can you imagine that in 1 second, if light traveled in a circle, which it doesn't, how many times around? Over 7 times around the circumference of the Earth in a second. That's crazy fast. Okay, so as I asked that question, we're talking about light, we're also talking about sound. So the first thing I ask, is the speed of light a constant? A constant means it doesn't change. So is that a constant? The next thing is, what is the speed of sound? Most people don't know. They know somewhere in the proximity. So when I say, what is the speed of sound, and you give me an answer, And we usually measure that in miles per hour. It's so slow that we couldn't even do miles per second. We'd have too many zeros in decimal point. So we usually measure that in miles per hour. So the common answer, if somebody says anything, is 767. Okay? 767. Now, is that a constant? Okay? So everybody would say, yeah, speed of light is a constant, speed of sound is a constant. Okay, well that's what this whole class is for. Neither one are constants. So it turns out the speed of sound, if you saw 767, it's at 48 degrees, at a certain elevation, certain atmospheric pressure, on and on and on. It's far from a constant. In fact, the speed of sound travels 20 times faster when it goes through steel, maybe 10 times faster when it goes through wood. It is so not a constant. We might assume the same thing with the speed of light. Less is known about the speed of light, but I'm going to tell you what we do know. So these are the kind of things we want you to step back and say, no, it's not a constant. In fact, very few things are constant. So a lot of times in the puzzles we're saying, okay, the Earth is a sphere. Of course it isn't. A string doesn't have any tensile strength. Of course it doesn't. The speed of light is 767. Yeah, only in some places at the right temperature and the right conditions. So what we're going to explore first is the differences between light and sound. So when you're looking at sound, sound is a wavelength that travels slowly. And it turns out that for sound, okay, when a sound is made, it actually needs particles to travel on. Particles are a sound wave's best friend. So steel, condensed, heavy, it goes very fast, 20 times faster. Air, it goes very slow. Well, 767 miles an hour, that's still fast, but not compared to light. Now light, on the other hand, this is supposed to be a flashlight. When it shines, okay, it's the opposite. Particles are its enemy. It likes a vacuum. It travels best in a vacuum. It doesn't need anything to travel on. Although it is a wavelength, it doesn't like particles. So we might even think, hey, if there's more particles, does it slow down? Those are the questions I'm not here to answer, and I don't even know that I can. But what we do know is if we do take a piece of paper, a black piece of paper, it stops the light. That's crazy. So light, because particles are the enemy, stops it. Now, we're not amazed at that. I actually have a patent pending because as I was analyzing this, I realized something. As sound, I can put a board here and the sound will travel right through it. You know why? Because the board or paper, that's the friend of sound. It goes through a wall. It goes through insulation. The patent I have is actually 2 panes of glass or any 2 panes of anything with a small vacuum, okay? And the small vacuum can be paper thin. When a sound wave hits there, other than through the frame, it cannot penetrate anymore. So we're not amazed at all that light would stop with a thin piece of black paper, but we would be amazed if sound completely stopped. I'm not talking about soundproof or it's 98%. There is no sound through a vacuum. It's void of any particles. And remember, that's sound's best friend. So basically the patent is just a dual pane window with a vacuum. There's some other challenges about air pressure and that kind of thing that the patent recognizes and fixes, but that is the essence of it. So it's really fun when you start understanding how sound travels, how light travels, that we're going to be exploring a lot more in classes, and how cool these things can be, just to understand that. So sound loves particles, light hates particles. Sound is a light is a wavelength, and if you've ever seen the, let's call it the Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon, it shows light and 7 colors, okay? Now I have to mention this point, there's 7 colors in the rainbow, Roy, G, Viv we used to learn in our 8th grade science classes: red, orange, yellow, blue, green, blue, indigo, violet. You know how many colors there are? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is one of the ways we actually get our Notes7 name. There's 7 days in a week: perfection, completion. There are 7 notes, musical notes in any scale. You can write 300,000 new songs every month are written with just 7 notes in that scale, combining chords and rhythm and sequences and cadence and melodies with 7 notes. Infinite amount of possibilities with 7 notes. 7 colors of light in the rainbow when you look at it, or off of a prism. So it turns out that even though all these 7 colors of light travel at the same speed, they actually have different wavelengths. So a prism going through glass separates out the 7 colors, much like rain does with the sunlight. So we have 7 colors. I had to mention that because that's partly where our name comes from. So eventually you'll see a similarity with the number 7. So we have 7 different colors of light. And the crazy thing is, unlike pigment, when you add pigment, which is like paint, the more colors you add, the darker it gets. With light, if I reverse this and add red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet back, and send it through this prism, we get what we call white light back through. So white light splits out to these colors. When you add 2 colors, it changes what the color is, but opposite of pigment, the more colors you add, the whiter it gets. And so that's how light works. So we talked about the speed of light and how it works. With a sound wave, again, sound travels at the same speed, but within that sound is coded bass notes, treble notes, everything in between. So it's amazing when our ear hears sound, it takes these wavelengths and separates it into what we can hear. When our eyes see this refractionary color, whether it's bouncing off a red piece of paper, our eyes actually distinguish what the wavelength is and call it color. We're going to have a whole thing on in the next couple episodes. I think it might be lesson 4 or 5 coming up, about sound, the way we hear it, light, the way we see it, taste, the way we taste it, and smell, and what causes all those, and why we smell, hear, see all these different sounds, and how our bodies receive these wavelengths and turn it into actual information that we can use. It's pretty amazing. So again, that concludes this class. I hope you like it. Any suggestions on classes you'd like to see, email us. Any comments? We have lots of stuff on Notes7, different music that we're involved in writing, because it is Notes7, different theories that we're coming up with. So please connect with us, and we'd love to hear from you. And we'll have plenty more fun classes, fun puzzles, fun riddles. Okay, thank you.